With last night, we're using a flip camera too, HD flip.
Well, they broke it, thanks to me.
I asked Shannon to
I played a prank on one of the
Jesus out
cameramen
of
and
a
he smashed the HD camera.
Oh yeah, she's startling.
There was a
Oh
groundhog hole in the
God.
cemetery, big hole. He's like, how much, I'll give you $20 if you stick your arm all the way in there. So I'm looking in there and he's got the HD camera, he's trying to go in there. And I went, oh my God, and he went, ah!
And he
dropped the camera in two
everything went
pieces.
flailing.
Was he really upset, or did he just...
They were all pretty upset, but it was an accident. I mean...
You were trying to scare me, and then I scared you back, and that's what I would have said.
You're so stupid, Wade. What'd you fall for that for?
So we're going to start now. Here's the thing. We're going to just go free flow in terms of like who's talking, but I'm going to kind of do two shots. I'm kind of focused on your best angle, and then I'm going to move over to your best angle.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you can't talk or interject or do anything, but it's like I kind of want to focus on one person and then the other. But again, feel free to talk, and I can just move the camera and all that. So.
Yeah, like when I ask a question, I'll probably ask, like I might ask you, if it's a combined question, you'll both start like kind of doing what married couples do, which is try to talk
Let her
over
talk
each other.
first.
Yeah, no, he knows this.
Wow.
Well, he's learned that. You're like, good for you. I know you just scored some really good points there. I know. Like, oh, that was awesome. So I know, I love it. But I'll ask a question. Like I'll say, like, who are you and what do you do?
Yep.
And then you can talk about as this relates to the paranormal. And then I'll say the same thing to you, and we'll move question by question unless you hit something. Like if I ask you what was your scariest paranormal moment, you may both be there, and that's where you may turn and say, well, or he may not be there at all.
Well, one of the scariest, I'll talk about Ouija board related scariest moments.
We're perfect, and I'll do a couple just to kind of there's like little shots. Like I'll ask you things like, do you believe in the spirit world? Do you like what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
So and then we'll relate it. Then I'll start pulling them into. But yeah, the focus obviously is on Ouija board.
Would it be okay to discuss a scary moment in paranormal that wasn't Ouija
Of
related?
course, in the beginning,
Because I'm
it's
going to talk
perfect.
about Waverly Hills, obviously.
Right,
Yep.
because those moments play into what's really scary. I mean, ultimately, that moment is why some people believe you shouldn't play with Ouija boards.
And also his background to why you're in this area, like things that have affected you.
It affects
or led
you.
to this expertise,
Yeah,
So
because we want to kind of show the audience why,
Right.
why you're talking about this. You have an
sure.
expertise
Sure.
that adds kind of light on this.
Now, question, can I say I grew up in this town of Leominster?
Say Leominster, we're here in
You're
Leominster.
going to acknowledge that?
Whatever you want.
It's perfect. It's like right on
Whatever you want.
the. I turned it this way because it says Leominster Public Library on the back. Yeah, so
But
I mean,
it sucked if it said Exeter or something.
I know it's one of those old ones.
All right, so I can say Leominster, and do you want me to mention Ghost Hunters International or any TV experience?
Everything you're comfortable doing. If you say
okay.
always edit, so it's
Yeah, I
up
was
to
going to say
you.
they can chop it out if they don't want it.
I mean, I don't really want to plug that too much, so if it comes out of my mouth,
Just say that
it
you're on a
does,
TV show on,
I did some television
you
work,
did
I'll
some
just say
television
that.
work.
Yeah, exactly. Or say
both
you did
I
some.
mean, it's fair use as a documentary. Like, I mean, even though that's like this is under fair use document, so it's like not like there's any legal issue. If you're like, oh, I worked on Ghost Hunters, like, well, this is a doc, even though it's for profit. Like, it's educational, so it's okay. So I think that's my legal view. My wife
Now,
kind of
off the record here, where is this going to air? What
Hopefully,
kind
it's
of...
like a History Channel is where
Really?
they're
A
the most
big
interesting.
thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, my work's been on national television and stuff like that, but he's the name that's going to get this.
Right.
Yeah, they've been after me for a while to do it. Now I'm
He's already
You had talked about it when we were on the phone, like eons ago.
Exactly.
Saying you were going
it's
to do
always
this.
there.
And then
And I came to him completely independently,
Yeah.
just knowing he's the expert, wanting to make my own doc, and then deferred to him and said, look, I want to make the doc because I have questions, but you're the expert, so
Yeah.
I'll just follow you.
you got the right guy.
So it was a nice synthesis, I think.
See, I'm already a
So
huge
far,
fan. He did ESPN stuff for...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He did great. He did. That's what hooked us, and
We're
I'm
gonna-
not a
we're gonna
huge
talk.
football fan.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's true. No, I
And
mean,
the
I told me
perfect
like,
for
people don't
women.
like football, but they said it was the best documentary ever made LA Times. So I was very lucky because when you make a doc, you can't really control it, but
No.
I got lucky.
Good for you.
That's
I got lucky
fantastic.
with him too because he's the only guy that could have done this. So let's start.
Only
We'll
guy.
go- We'll start with.
Okay, so we'll start with you, Shannon. I'll say. So who
Oh,
are
that's over here. Just because this is my angle, but then we can. But then
She's
Hold on,
and I'm going to move over
Because
there.
you're cute.
I got to get into character and pretend she's already spoken. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah. Exactly. Just
It's all
pretend.
good.
So, who are you and what do you do in this field?
I'm Jeff Sylvia, and unlike my wife, who's been investigating the paranormal since childhood, my experience started later in life as an adult, just a few years ago. Took a great interest in the paranormal due to some personal experiences that happened in our own home, and I consider myself a researcher and a paranormal investigator. My main purpose is to produce and sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Present and produce evidence to our community, mostly the skeptics, because that's mainly my point of view is skeptical. And I want to present evidence that folks can look at, and if it stands the test of time, then it's something that would be interesting to me, as opposed to something that could be easily debunked. I'm hoping that somewhere along the line that we can find evidence of the afterlife, as there isn't one person in the world that doesn't have that question in their mind. So that to me has become a focus to try to find some answers.
Great. Same question for you. That was great.
Okay. And yeah, even though, again, I'm going to do that, I'm there. Let's.
Did I wait long enough in between my fumble to
You did
give
great.
some-
You did
okay.
great.
All right.
And honestly, if at the end you want to just redo it,
Okay.
second take, who cares? It's
Okay.
no big
That's
deal.
the beauty of digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Amen.
And I'm looking at you, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
My name is Shannon Sylvia. I grew up in this town of Leominster, Massachusetts my whole life. And I grew up in a haunted house, which was very interesting because that pretty much fed my passion and my love for wanting to know what the paranormal was about. Can I start over? I'm having a brain fart.
And really just let it.
I've done this 1,000 times.
I'm just saying.
That's what's killing me.
You don't have to
I,
ask, absolutely. Do whatever you need to do.
in my
She's the one with all the TV experience, by the way.
You know what? It's just that we've been filming for so many days and I haven't eaten much.
No, don't even worry about it.
Let me start over. I need to speak a little quicker. It's going to flow a little better.
No, actually, oftentimes the thoughtful thinking about things plays off really well on camera. Just to let you know, it just makes it look like you haven't had the same
dramatic
answer.
music here,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
It's all good.
And can I give you one piece of advice? You're pros at this, and just a little thing I've learned. Sometimes it's very distracted when we're talking and thinking, making eye contact. So, believe it or not, if you look over his shoulder, say it that.
I think I was.
It's sometimes easier to focus, I find. 'cause
Yeah,
you're
I think
getting
I
feedback
was.
from somebody and distracted.
I'm very handsome,
true.
and it often
It's
distracts
ridiculous.
people from...
I mean, I'm just like...
Yeah, so that's how I do it.
I affect people that way. It's awful. It's
just so magnetic.
Yeah, I know.
So, okay.
All right.
While you ask the question, by the way, that'll give it a nice,
Yeah.
naturalness to it.
So, who are you, and what do you do in this field?
My name is Shannon Sylvia. I grew up in this great town of Leominster, Massachusetts my entire life. And I grew up in a haunted house on the other side of town. A lot of creepy things happened in that place. My parents weren't really vocal about what was going on in our home, being as religious as we are. So I bought a lot of books as a child from everyone from Hans Holder to Raymond Moody. Books on anything from witchcraft to ESP to Ouija boards to ghost hunting, just trying to learn as much as I could about the field. And upon moving out of that home at 21 years old, I moved into another building which is very historical, an old schoolhouse built in the 1800s, and thought I had left the paranormal world behind. However, as fate would have it, the schoolhouse is haunted. So I ended up pulling a paranormal group into the home to investigate a few times. I fell in love with the group, ended up joining them, and from there on, I was living my dream, learning about the paranormal in person outside of reading them about it in books. Hold on, I think outside of
Can I
two.
interrupt something? You guys still live there?
Oh yeah,
And we're in a library right now?
I know.
Doing this interview? I'm just saying.
It's a great place,
Maybe just
too.
get B-roll after this if it's okay with you. If it's not, I think
the house is in pretty okay
That's
shape,
incredible.
but-
I didn't know that. But
We've
go
got
on.
a great,
Okay.
we have the
It's
original
understood.
hardwoods from the 1800s. You can see where the children's chairs and desks were still screwed into our living
Wow,
room
that's
floor.
pretty cool.
It's all brick with exposed exposed brick and beams, and it's pretty neat. We can take you over there.
Yeah, we can do that.
It's just down the road.
I don't mean to pose that question. I just want to just.
All right. So what did I leave off? So I had a team in there. I joined the team. I'll go on.
Yeah.
So after working with the team a few years, I went on to do national television, international as a fact. Let me start again as a fact. From there, from joining a team, I went on to do television work on an international TV show. And it's been an incredible experience. I've learned so much in the past decade, more than I could ever imagine, just being out there in the field about every subject. Everything from Ouija boards to demonology. I've come up with a couple pieces of equipment that have furthered the field, and the learning process just never ends.
Fantastic. And so what is your belief system?
I grew up in a very strict Catholic family. I went to Catholic school up until 7th grade, and very involved with the Catholic Church, an Italian family, and very involved to the point where my family was the musical part of the church. We sang on Sundays in front of everyone. Because of those Catholic beliefs growing up, that's why my family was very inhibited about talking about the hauntings in our home. We knew it was happening. If we heard certain footsteps coming towards us from downstairs in the basement where a lot of the activity happened, my mother would just simply lock the door and have us sit on the couch and read a Bible. We weren't very informed on what may have been causing the paranormal activity. I have a better idea now. Have grown up and have delved back into that background, but the Catholic belief that I grew up with, there's some pros and cons to my beliefs. Of course, I believe that using a Ouija board and ghost hunting was strictly forbidden according to the Bible. So it's conflicted me internally with my beliefs because I want to remain true to my roots, but I still know that I'm still inside very spiritual and religious, but I have become so open-minded to all religions now. So I think that being in the paranormal has definitely given me a better belief system of all different religions, not just mine anymore. I'm not so one-sided.
Perfect. And so what is your belief system?
I too was raised Catholic, altar boy, confirmed Catholic, and I always go back to the part of the Mass where it says, "in the hope of rising again." And to me, that is something that conjures up a distinct feeling in myself that there is afterlife somewhere out there. But the whole connection between communicating with the afterlife through these digital recorders and these pieces of equipment, was a huge leap of faith for me until I saw it firsthand. Very much a skeptic, being a believer, but very much a skeptic. I'm a show-me person. And it was until I saw things firsthand and things started happening to me that it really heightened my awareness that this is actually possible to make a connection with the other side. To me, it's always something that's been in back of my mind, but until I started investigating and researching, there's just been a complete floodgate opening for me in the way of thirst for knowledge and wanting to learn more. Let me say that again. There's always been a thirst for knowledge and wanting to learn more about this field. And being able to work with professionals like Shannon and others that we've been very fortunate to work with has really opened up a lot of doors for me in learning and for being very much a sponge and wanting to learn more on each investigation that we go on.
Perfect. Do you believe that there's good and evil? And if you do you believe that evil can manifest itself?
Very much so.
Yeah. So like when I ask it to you, try to put the answer in the question. Like if you say I believe in evil or evil can manifest itself.
Sure.
So So do you believe that in good and evil, and do you believe that evil can manifest itself?
I absolutely believe that evil can manifest itself. I think it's indicative everywhere in the world today. If you think for a second about a baby being born and having a lifespan, that baby is pure, natural, loved, unconditionally loved. And for a particular human being, any particular human being, to grow into committing an atrocity of any kind whatsoever, I think that's something that is, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're influenced. I believe that's something that a person is influenced, and we can't explain that influence for a lot of different reasons. But to have that happen in human beings, to me, shows that there is something out there that none of us can explain, none of us can reproduce on a regular basis. but evil does have a part in this world that it's more and more evident to me. Every single day that we look around and see things happening among us. Let me start that over, hold on. I know what I want to say, I just don't know how to say it.
That happens to me all the time.
It's okay.
No, it's actually quite eloquent.
Yeah, I thought you said it perfect.
A lot of things that were really profound.
Okay.
Because we got those cute
Okay.
cards behind us.
But you would think shot a shot at it, take another shot at it. Just free flow again.
Okay.
How does evil manifest?
Okay. I truly believe that evil is around us every day, and it's a constant struggle between good and evil that us as human beings go through, and we don't give it the credit that it deserves. I think if you spend time thinking about it, you drive yourself absolutely mad, and for that reason, I think it's something that we should be very cautious of, especially when we talk about communicating with the other side, because we just don't know what's out there.
Perfect. Same question to you. So do you believe in evil, and do you believe evil can manifest itself?
I absolutely believe in evil and that evil can manifest itself. I believe that for light there is dark, for good there is evil. There are so many things in this world that are influenced by evil. I believe, in my opinion, that substance abuse, mental illness, a lot of these things can be encouraged by outside forces that we just weren't born genetically to be exposed to. And as far as it manifesting itself, absolutely. I mean, not only as a ghost hunter have I seen it with my own two eyes, but, just all around us, unfortunately. But for all the bad things, there are good things. I do believe in miracles. I do believe in revelations. I do believe in angels. I do believe in the good spirits as well as the bad. And then you have the in-between. You have the human spirits. Being a Catholic, I was raised to believe in purgatory, in limbo. But in my research, I actually think that might be this earth, purgatory and limbo. I think there are spirits that are trapped here, just wandering, looking for an out. And when their time's up, they'll go back to where they belong.
Perfect. That leads into another question, actually.
Sweet.
I was going to ask if you or describe the spirit world. What are things you can communicate with?
What do you mean?
What's that? What else is out there? Is it yeah?
Oh, like entities themselves.
Entities. Yeah. What are those things?
Right?
Say
okay.
we'll move
what
it into
kind of spirits do you think
we'll
are
move
out
it
there?
into the Ouija board thing. So we'll move it into the Ouija board because that will come out. So what is the Ouija board?
The Ouija board is a device, simply. It could be a different collection of mediums, such as paper, plastic, cardboard, masonite. It's been around for hundreds of years. Of course, our grandparents and our great-grandparents and our great-great-grandparents going down the line, we're talking from the 1800s, 1900s, the spiritualist movement. Very fascinating. Instead of the Wii and Nintendo and iPhones, they had Ouija boards for entertainment. And it wasn't necessarily a child's play thing. It was a very adult thing. It was very real. And obviously, the boards were so popular, something must have been coming through on these boards to entertain these people for almost 200 years. And as far as the board itself, I have seen so many different types, and so have you. The board itself is just a means of communication for the afterlife. It doesn't have to be a board. There have been instances where I've taken a Sharpie, a magic marker, and just wrote words out in alphabet or the words yes and no on a plastic tablecloth in front of witnesses. And we've taken a shot glass from behind the bar, put it down on the table, and it was moving around giving us messages. So there are so many different mediums, which is fascinating. So something behind those mediums is driving the glass, driving the paper to spell out these messages. It's an absolute amazing phenomenon. And I was brought up, of course, to hate the Ouija board, to shun away from it, that it's evil. But you know what? You could go to Walmart and bump into a ghost and something could follow you home. So I think it's what you make of it.
Perfect.
I need to interrupt because can you expand a little bit about what you just said about creating your own and whether or not the glass had hands on it or
that's like the next question.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's on my list. I just want to know.
Yeah.
I can talk more about that.
Yeah, what the how does the Ouija board work?
That's a you question.
Well, from your
Yeah, from my
experience and
opinion.
perspective, how do you believe that it actually works?
I believe the Ouija board works through a spirit, through a ghost, if you'll call it. I believe that they're using your energy through your body, whatever that is, your aura, whatever that physical energy is. I believe that they're using through you, whether you're touching a planchette or a shot glass or a quarter even. People use many different things. Inside you're not pushing it, but something is. So it's that phenomena, that thirst that I need to find out exactly what it is. But as far as what is powering that Ouija board, no one's been able to prove what it is. But we can prove that something's happening. It's like collecting an EVP and ghost hunting. You can prove something happened, but you can't prove what caused it. It's all part of that amazing phenomenon package that, people like you and me, we're all trying to figure that out and prove it. What is the Ouija board? What makes it work?
Do you think that the spirit is coming through you to move your hands, or is it using your energy to move it without you?
Okay, I've got an idea. The thing that I've noticed though throughout my years using a Ouija board is I've seen the Ouija board move with or without me. I have seen that planchette move on its own. I've seen it move with my finger touch or other individuals touching the planchette. So it confuses me as to, do you really need a human to be the vehicle for that energy to come through? That I can't answer. But what I have seen with my own two eyes, and we've documented it, is planchettes actually moving without human touch. And that's amazing. Do they really need us to move? Now, if you sit a Ouija board down on a table with a planchette, you may see that happen in the movies, but is that going to happen in real life? Probably not. So that's what sort of gives me the idea that I think the spirits do need us as the vehicle to push the planchette.
Perfect. And now for you, I'm going to ask you the same thing.
Did you just finish with that story about your glass thing, just to tell me?
Yeah. Do you want me to go into that now, or are you going to ask me about my experiences?
Yeah. Well, so it'll be your Ouija board experience.
As far as it moving without my finger touch, is that
Or
what you
whatever
want to hear?
happened.
You want to know about the actual story for my first
that'd be
use?
great.
That's when it happened. Back in 2000. No, I'm lying. It wasn't 2000. It was 1996. My
Outtakes.
2000. In 1996, I went to a Halloween party, and I'm dressed up in costume as well as everybody else. And of course, there was a Ouija board there. It's the first time I actually ever saw one in person. It was never allowed in my house growing up. And we're talking midnight, of course, rolls around, and there's many of us sitting around the Ouija board, probably 12, 13 of us. And it was interesting. There were a few people present, a couple friends of mine named Jeff and Jody. And they were a couple for a couple of years. And the board was spelling out lots of messages. We had a woman and a son who died in a car accident come through. They said they died in a car accident. They gave us names and ages. Another spirit came through and spelled out a message, which rings through my mind every day. I don't forget about this. And the message was, Jeff, Jody, love, dead. And of course, Jeff and Jody were very disturbed about hearing this. They're a couple, they're very much in love. Christmas is a couple months away. Jeff was proposing to Jody. And on Christmas Day, when Jeff actually proposed to Jody, just months after this incident, she told him she could not accept his ring because she was seeing somebody else. So it was a mere prediction from the board, very subtle but creepy indeed. Nobody saw that coming. But later on in the evening, I was sitting at the board with a friend of mine named Mark. He was younger than me. He was an employee that worked with me in a restaurant. And we're tinkering around the board, and it is spelling out messages left and right. And Mark kept saying, "You're pushing it." I'm going, "No, you're pushing it." And we're going back and forth. And the planchette, it was amazing. We were doing this. We're getting in line with the table. And I wasn't touching it, and neither was Mark. Our fingers were just above the planchette. And I'm saying, okay, this is really weird, because now we're getting scared. Now, none of us are touching that planchette, and it's spelling out messages. And we started to get very frustrated, thinking, this is one of us, something has to be a hoax. That planchette flew off the table and across the room about 10 feet and landed on the ground in front of everybody, and none of us said a word. It was just one of those moments where we kind of both just went, oh my God. And I've got goosebumps because I'm going back there to that day, to that night, I just saw for the first time in my life actual levitation. That was the first phenomena I've seen like that where we didn't push that planchette. The thing went flying across the room. It was amazing.
That's pretty cool.
I was scared. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. That we weren't touching it, so that used whatever energy it had on its own to push that planchette all that distance in front of everybody, and just packed up the board and put it aside for a while. Didn't go back there.
How many times have you used the Ouija board?
Probably in my whole life, 10 or 12 times, believe it or not. I'm using it more and more these days because when I do public appearances and investigations and overnights in a lot of different places, what I do is ask permission from some of the investigators involved. And if everybody's in, what I'll typically do is grab a piece of paper and a magic marker and mark it up, yes or no. It's sort of a test. So if we have a shot glass, I typically, because I don't open up my Ouija board at home, I don't travel with one and I don't use a planchette, or I'll bring the iWay. And we'll see what happens. If we get some movement with just the basic setup, then we can go and make up an actual alphabet, handmade piece of paper. And I've been known to use tablecloths before, but sometimes we get success and sometimes we do not. As you know, the Ouija board's not predictable. But it does fascinate people. There are a lot of people I meet through my travels that have never used a board before, that always wanted to, but they've heard the horror stories and they think they're going to walk out throwing up pea soup, which isn't the case. And it ends up being a very benign evening. If we get messages coming through, it does make it for a long session. We'll sit for a few hours just because sometimes it's nonstop, the communication, and everybody wants to get in and try it and feel it out. But during the process of my Ouija board use, if we're getting communication, I will film it. I'll film a lot of that footage. I'll film close-ups. I'll get right down to table level and just film it to see if we can recreate that sort of not touching the planchette moment. We've been successful. As far as the experts saying that it's bad, well, what isn't? The air we breathe is polluted. You know, every alcoholic beverage we consume kills brain cells. What isn't bad? But I don't believe it's bad. I think some of it can be good. It's about as bad as you make it.
Perfect. Do you think Ouija boards?
Can we get your experience? Remember, like in an
Yeah, we're gonna move it. I just thought you decided.
Okay, no. It's okay.
Oh no, I'm having
You're rotting away over here?
No, I'm good.
So I'll start with you and say, what is the Ouija board?
As a skeptic, the Ouija board to me presents as many theories and questions as it does answers. There are those out there, and I'm not saying I'm one of them, but I don't discount the fact that there are some people out there that believe there is no such thing as an EVP. Everything that is being communicated is demonic, is from the dark side. And I've always wondered, because I'm a guy that thinks either it is or it isn't. And here's why it could be or couldn't be. Why is Hasbro putting this out there for children? Why is it that they just roll off the assembly line like the Simon toy or any other toy? Could it be the devil's greatest trick? Could it be something that we're going to make it in society? Because who hasn't used a Ouija board? I just found out a couple of months ago that my mom played with one. And my mom is one of the most straight-laced, prim and proper people that you would ever come across in your entire life. For me to hear that she messed around with one, now it really, really got me thinking about a lot of things. Who hasn't? And if something like that can come in contact with every single walk of life, every human being, every family, every individual, what does that lend to communication, as we talked about before with the other side? And again, theorizing for me, it's a vehicle. It's like anything else that we're using to try to make that communication. Is it using our energy? What does it want in return? Does it use energy from the other side without us? Are we vehicles? Are we not vehicles? I've had some experiences with Ouija boards that I still can't explain. I've watched things come through that have brought people to tears, things that aren't supposed to be known about people. And it's a fascinating thing for me to watch this, and why this particular board has become the focus of the paranormal, so to speak. There's so many strong opinions of it. Let me stop for just a second. There's so many strong opinions of it that it lends some sort of credibility to me that it is in some way a powerful tool. I just can't explain why.
Do you think Ouija boards are dangerous?
I think they can be as dangerous as any attempt to communicate with the other side, because, again, being a skeptic and trying to look at this scientifically, there isn't an EVP or a piece of evidence, paranormal evidence, that could ever be produced twice in a row. And until that happens, we don't know why it happens, we don't know why it doesn't happen. So if it's not dangerous, then I think we would be foolish. Let me say that again. We would be foolish in thinking there might not be some danger. One more time. We would be foolish in thinking that there might not be some danger attached to this, because we just don't know what's coming through and why it's coming through. And again, being a Catholic, we believe in God, we believe in the devil. So until we can control in an environment, in a petri dish, the paranormal, and be able to produce it on command, it always lends the question to me that there could be some danger involved. And even though we might try to protect ourselves, are we doing enough?
And can you talk about some of your Ouija board experiences that you've had, or even just one?
Sure. Do you want to introduce the Iway at this point, or you want to leave that for her?
We can do we'll do it different when I ask you about it.
Okay.
I'll ask you a
All right.
question that leads into it.
I'll talk
and
about the Harley House with Becca and how it was spelling out.
Well, that's the
things.
footage I had mentioned earlier. That was the amazing
Yeah.
night. Yeah.
Perfect, because
Okay.
it is.
All right. One experience that really struck me was when we were at the Harley House in Lunenburg, Massachusetts, just up the road from here. It's a place that had never been investigated before. We were with a group of folks, some of which had used a Ouija board before, some of which had not. And all of a sudden, being asked questions, this board started spelling out things that were very personal to the owner. The owner actually shed tears after hearing the answers that were coming through, because there were things that only she would know from a very personal family experience with her grandfather who had passed. Names were being spelled out, nicknames of things that were being spelled out that only she would know came through. And to me it was fascinating, because there was absolutely no way that anybody in that room would know these things. And to see the way that it moved her personally really lent it really reduced a lot of skepticism for me with what was coming through that night. Is that okay?
Perfect.
You guys are very articulate.
Yeah, very articulate. It's exactly what we need to hear. So, do you think there's a time that Ouija boards are okay to use?
Are you on me? Okay.
Mhm.
Ouija boards would be used in a setting that, is there ever a time where they'd be okay to use? Boy, that's a deep question. To tell you the truth, I don't know, because I wouldn't want to go on record saying, yes, in this particular instance, they would be okay to use. Because again, the skepticism in myself says it could be okay or it couldn't be okay, and there's just so many reasons why on both sides of that equation. I wouldn't want to endorse that. Are they a useful tool? Absolutely a useful tool, just like any form of attempt to communicate with the other side. I guess you'd have to define okay to me as far as protecting yourself and surrounding yourself with something that would not allow attachment to come into your home, to come into your life, because there's so many different things out there that affect people over time. I just can't say that it's okay.
And do you think that, or what can happen in your worst case scenario? What are you concerned about in using a Ouija board? Like, what are you afraid might happen?
I would be concerned with something coming through that could uncontrollably attach itself to you and raise hell in your life. You've heard the documentaries, you've seen the Hollywood films. look at what's happening in the world today. In Hollywood, you know, they used to have these great episodes of dynamic weather. Let's take weather. And now, you know, you look at the whirlpool in Japan, you look at the dust storm in Arizona. You know, my brain goes to anything that you can dream up subconsciously could become conscious. Why would you want to expose yourself to that and open yourself up to something that you couldn't defend yourself against? So that would probably be my greatest fear.
Do you think that Ouija boards should be marketed or sold to children?
That's a tough question too, because I think we're born sensitive. I think everybody is born with a little bit of psychic ability. Over the years, people learn to harness that, people tune into it. Again, a child being pure, open, white, if you will, a canvas. I think under certain direction, if there was an interest there, how many child prodigies do you see? You know, should you let them touch a piano at a young age because they could be so focused they wouldn't do their schoolwork? It's kind of along the lines of the same question. If there was a fascination there or a gift that was being exposed, I think under direction with a good mentor, that it wouldn't be something that should be completely taboo. But on a regular basis, being available without any of those conditions, I think could be potentially dangerous.
Do you play the Ouija board?
I have in my life. I don't use it regularly, but we have used it together. We've used it in groups, and I used it as a kid. I think everybody used it as a kid. I can remember sitting around the garage with a few friends, asking who we were going to marry and if we were going to be rich in life, and you know, we never protected ourselves. And how do you know if that affected the rest of your life? If that wasn't a chain reaction that set off events of things to come in your life.
You've mentioned protection a couple times. How would you recommend someone? Like, what is that? Why? How would you protect yourself? What is that?
Again, it's that protection to me is that leap of faith. But it's almost like if you don't do it, you're a fool. Brought up as Catholic, we gravitate to protecting yourself with the Word of God. At that point, it does become a leap of faith for everybody. Some people surround themselves with the white light, but I think not to do it would be more foolish than leaping that faith and trying to do it. So for me, I use my faith in God and as a Christian to protect myself against anything that would attach itself or try to come home.
Great. Do you want to do Shannon? Or?
Yeah, sure.
You can't do me, but you can film me.
Can he film doing you? No, I'm sorry. It was leading
how
right
much
up to
you're
it.
I am building
I know, he's just like right in front of me.
Anything for the prize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we
It's
all
all
have
good.
prices. So you gave your thing on the Ouija board. So are Ouija boards dangerous?
I believe in some way Ouija boards can be dangerous. As with any other kind of paranormal work, you have to have your boundaries. There have been instances that I've heard of that everybody knows the stories about how a Ouija board was brought home and the family had to bury it or get rid of it because either a child fell ill or something catastrophic happened. Is that the rule of coincidence? Possibly. As far as is it dangerous, it's, in my opinion, it's as dangerous as one allows it to be. I personally have never seen anything dangerous come of it, and a lot of the Ouija board use when I was younger, in college, a couple times after, I was not protecting myself. Did I get lucky and nothing harmed me later on? I was lucky. In my recent Ouija board use, I have been lucky. Nothing has happened. I hear a lot of hearsay from people. I hear the stories, the urban legends, the myths about what has happened to people after Ouija boards. I've read horrific stories about a woman who became addicted to a Ouija board. The Ouija board was her friend. It was giving her lots of information. She became so addicted that every time the family member took away the board, another board would be created by her with just simple pen and paper. That's dangerous. That is an actual addiction. The serotonin in her brain was comforting her. It was a comfort. It was a source of friendship. Whatever spirit was coming through had befriended her. The thing we have to worry about is not the board and what might happen after, but who are you communicating with? We don't know if you're really communicating with an accident victim, if you're communicating with your great-great-grandfather. We don't know. We've all been trained to think that they lie. Maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong. There may be a malevolent spirit that has nothing better to do but to trick one's mind and come through and, again, give them a source of information and later on try to get something from you. We can't prove it. We can't recreate it. But, we learn as we go. We learn from the urban legends that have been passed on.
Do you believe Ouija board use could lead to possession?
I have to actually think about that one too. Do I lead? It can be. Yes. I do believe that it could lead to possession. It is up to the individual user to whether or not they're mentally unsound, physically unsound, under a lot of duress in their life. There's that little wormhole that's open in their mind that may allow a spirit to come through and take advantage of that. Do I believe that? Absolutely. As with ghost hunting, put yourself in a haunted situation, something may come through and affect you later on. I've seen it, I've been there, I've done that. Possession is a very rare case, a very, very, very rare case. If you think about it, all the people from the spiritualist movement, again, our grandmothers and great-grandmothers and grandfathers all did it, and we didn't have a viral case of possession back then. Not everybody back then would have a demonologist on speed dial like we do now. Life went on. Unfortunate events happened, fires, floods, disasters, just as they do now. As far as the person who may have a possession, the stories that I've heard are few and far between. And you do have to take certain measures to protect yourself, to do it the right way, just as a ghost hunter would investigate the right way. You introduce yourself, you set a couple ground rules, and you go from there.
Do you believe there's any difference between using a Ouija board to communicate with the spirit world or a K2 meter or doing EVPs?
I absolutely think there's no difference between modern technology and the good old-fashioned masonite board and plastic Ouija board planchette. The technology has evolved. I have seen the critics say that the modern equipment, the K2 meter, the obelisk, the puck, all of these pieces of equipment are ineffective, that it doesn't work, it's just purely coincidence, like the Frank's box, for instance. I've seen with my own two eyes and heard with my ears things that have convinced me that these are legitimate pieces of equipment that may communicate with the dead. Not every time. Not every time. Not on cue. It's unpredictable. But so is the Ouija board. So I know for a fact a Ouija board is effective means of communication. If it never worked, millions of people, millions, would never have purchased a board. But it works. It's not just a game. It's an actual means of communication. You can take a marker, mark down a piece of paper, and it's considered a Ouija board. And it's pretty amazing how something so simple can yield such results. But the newer stuff is it's good. It's another means of communication. We have to make the vehicle of communication easy for the dead. There's no physical body. There's no organic matter. There's no physical body. There's no organic matter. They don't have vocal cords. They can't just easily project communications. So they have to use something that's simple. Something with airwaves, something with sound, something with writing, physical letters. There's so many different ways to do it.
And do you think if there's a danger in communicating with spirits, is there an equal danger in using a K2 meter as using a Ouija board?
Right. So are they all the same pretty much?
Or if not, why?
This is the question between a lot of people in the paranormal is, if you are doing EVP work, is it the same as using a Ouija board? Of course, you are trying to communicate, except for a different media. If you're asking an EVP question with a tape recorder in your hand, when you play it back, you're hoping you get a message. What kills me is the people that are afraid to use the Ouija board, but not afraid to do EVP work. Why? It's just another means of communication. It is just as bad to use a Ouija board as it is to do EVP work. We're asking ghosts with an Ouija board to spell out messages for us. We're asking ghosts with a recording device to say messages to us. So, in my opinion, it's all the same, no matter what.
Perfect. And, same thing with like a K2 meter, right?
Right.
Like you say, is anyone here? Blink, like it's just kind of funny. It's a great argument, though. I love that.
But it's not taboo to do that. But it's so taboo, Ouija boards. I mean, everybody's opinion of Ouija boards, it's all because the movies have taught us that boards are just going to lead to demonic possession. Anything can lead to demonic possession. I mean, somebody under the influence of drugs and alcohol could lead to demonic possession. Anything negative is going to latch on to a human because of their weakness. Has nothing to do with a board with letters on it.
That leads into another question. Do you think the board itself has any special power?
I don't believe the Ouija board itself has any special power. Again, from my experiences, from my experiences, I've been able to just simply write letters down on a plastic tablecloth and turn a shot glass upside down, and it was moving around spelling out messages. It is entertaining to hear the stories about how people have been told from a priest to bury the board and leave it out in moonlight and salt and the myriad of different methods of cleansing a board. Perhaps there's some truth to that, and I'm not an expert on that, but I don't believe it's the board that's haunted itself. I think too many movies growing up as a child, too many movies like Witchboard and all these other movies have sort of brainwashed us into thinking that it's a vehicle. It's just a vehicle for spirits to communicate with us.
Perfect. Do you want to do...
Just wonderful stuff.
Yeah, it is perfect.
Well, why don't we
yeah.
go into her, the invention?
Yeah. Well, when I one last question. Okay, so we found out when we were at Hasbro that since 1967, 13 million Ouija boards have been produced.
That's a lot. 13 million. Wow. I was hoping you would tell me about that, because I said millions of people have been using them, but thousands seem too small.
Yeah. So
13 million.
Yeah, so respond to that. Hearing
Just
13
67.
million. 67.
Do you guys ask them if anyone ever writes them with their horror stories? I mean, can they produce letters from people that said this board ruined my life, I'm going to sue you?
They can't. Letters are legally confidential between the people who send them.